All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in to STARCASTERS, the best Star Wars Legends podcast on YouTube. We're here today to talk about the second book in the Young Jedi Knight series, Star Wars Shadow Academy. And we all three just finished reading it. I think we had some positive things to say about it, but a little bit of interesting news to cover is the recent announcement of new Star Wars Black Series action figures. Now, I'm not like a collector, I don't really collect things like that, but it's really interesting because they are figures of Jason and Janna, the OG grandchildren from the New Jedi Order series. What do you guys think about that?
I'm very excited,
that,
obviously. I just think it's
yeah,
good
very
news, even though
exciting.
I'm probably not going to get them. It's still just very nice to see that they're making it and that they're advertising it as the new Jedi Order. And it's just nice to get Jason and Jaina to get some love. Obviously, it makes us hope for more, like some Yuuzhan Vong or maybe Anakin. We definitely need Anakin as well. I think it's very good. They look great. I think they look really good.
Yeah,
For
it's
clarification,
always nice when the expanded universe gets a bit of love.
Mm.
he's talking about grandchild Anakin, not Anakin Skywalker. He's talking about Anakin
Yeah.
Solo.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got plenty
Yeah,
of Black
imagine they
Series
don't have
releases.
they don't have one yet for Anakin.
Yeah.
That would be a massive miss.
You were gonna call attention to the Jason and Jaina Black Series figures, but I beat you to the punch. Well, yeah, that's what we do here is Legends talk. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Julia, you were about to say something before I interrupted you.
Well, I was just saying how it's very exciting that they are still doing some EU stuff. Obviously, it's just merch, and Disney are happy to sign off things that will make the money. But it's not like they've just thrown it all in the trash, because mostly what they do is just re-release the books. So it's nice that we're getting some, external stuff. Not that
Nice
it
to
will
get
lead
something
into
new.
anything.
But
Yeah.
as much as Jaina is like a repainting of a previous figure, the Jason is completely new, which I think is really good. It's really exciting that they've bothered to do that.
Yeah. And the actual face models I thought were very good, especially Jaina looks very similar to how she looks in the YJK novel covers.
She
And
does,
then
yeah.
apparently they look at the same as the Japanese art, is it, Gabe, as well?
Yeah, yeah. For NJO, the Japanese artist, I reckon that guy looked at or at least managed to get very similar to the Young Jedi Knights covers because they do look like an evolution of the Young Jedi Knights covers. So it does remind me of the Japanese art. They do look like that.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but a reprinting of the physical books has been like so overdue. I remember we did talk about this because there was a petition to have the whole series reprinted as a Essential Legends collection or something, and it just I think there's some kind of rights issue because it was
Yeah.
of who published it. So they apparently they can't like it can't be reprinted because of that. They would have to
Yeah,
like purchase the rights.
there's a company that does like exclusive like editions of Star Wars books, and I have a couple of theirs. Ones with like nice covers and stuff like that. And they did a post where they said that they wanted to do Young Jedi Knights, and they asked, and they were told that they can't because of the rights issues.
Dang.
So
I
that's
wonder
such
That's
a
very
pain.
frustrating.
I wonder what would
Yeah.
need to happen to resolve that.
Yeah, it's also why there aren't like official like ebooks or anything because of the those rights issues. There's been
It's always
such
going to
an
be a
issue for so
money
long.
issue. There's
Yeah.
they can hold it ransom and be like, if Disney really want this, we're asking Disney money, and obviously Disney don't care that much about the
Yeah,
EU at the end
not
of the
that
day.
bothered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me
So
wonder.
yeah.
You would have to convince Disney that whatever the cost they're asking would be made back up plus profit from the reprinting. I'm not even sure if
Yeah.
that's true. Like I don't know how much they're probably asking, like
Yeah.
$5 million or something crazy.
It'll only
Something
happen
ridiculous.
if Filoni decides he wants to pull some YJK stuff, and it would be, it'd be beneficial to kind of tie that into a reprint of the EU stuff. But
It would
the
be worth
chances
it.
of that happening is nearly zero. But really, it would
it
have
would-
to be from the creative at Disney to push the accountants to actually make a move
Yeah,
on
and
that.
it would end up being its own thing as well. Well, like in no way it would be part of the Essential Legends
Oh
collection
no! Okay.
because I think
Yeah, it would
So, like,
totally. They would have to
two-
advertise it as like, "Hey, we get this. There's this new YJK series under Filoni, but here's like the classic one that's completely different than what he's gonna do."
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they like to do big series, especially considering they started X-Wing, which isn't the biggest series, and have abandoned it from the ELC. They're still they're doing. I think we mentioned when it was news that they're doing unabridged audiobooks for the final two X-Wing novels, but they're not for the Essential Legends collection, and they're not getting physical reprints as part of that series. So I don't think they like doing big series, which I think is bizarre because some of these big series, like Young Jedi Knights, are pretty important to the EU. Like I would include them as part of the. If you want to get into the EU like properly beyond just reading a few books, it's part of the experience. I think it's part of that universe that you need to experience.
And they're just
It's
quality.
an easy way to drop people in as well, because a coming of age story I think is always a great way to get anyone into like a new universe or a universe they don't know too much about.
Yeah,
Because
and
you
they're not
literally
hard
learn about
reads.
it at the same time as the kids. Yeah, they're not hard reads. I mean, they are made for like 10-year-old children. So as an adult, you can blast through this within a day easily if you wanted to.
But they're not
few
written like
hours.
really, really kiddie or anything. I think they're written for more like.
No, it's similar to like we've always compared it to Harry Potter, and Harry Potter has had the thing where it grows with the series. I think this starts a little bit older than Harry Potter. Like the first 2 books were more whimsical than maybe this starts out as being. But in comparatively, they're both easy reads. Like I would say, it lines up with that. Like they're kids' books, but you can enjoy them as an adult.
I think that's very much in tone with like the actual movies.
Star Wars,
Like Star Wars,
Yeah.
the 6 films are very much like clearly
They are family movies.
they're made to where a 10-year-old boy can watch and appreciate them, but a grown up is going to appreciate it just as much. It's not there's some stuff where it's like this is clearly like more targeted towards children and it's going to be harder to enjoy it as an adult, but I think that the writing is compelling enough that I mean obviously they're not like the most like Plagueis is leagues above this. Something like Plagueis would be like this is not a kid's book.
Plagueis is something that you would never give to a kid because he's going to be overwhelmed within the first chapter.
Probably bored too. A kid will probably get
Too
bored.
much,
Yeah.
too much politics and world building probably, which is most of what Plagueis is, which is why it's so good.
Yeah.
But, we'll be doing Plagueis eventually.
James,
Yes,
greatest
these
of all
books are
time,
very
Lucino.
much- These are adventure books. There's not a lot of intrigue. There's not a lot of anything like that going on. It is very
But there
much
is
you
some
go on a
good,
grand adventure.
Some good little character development, I think, which makes it enjoyable. Like the
Yeah.
favorite moment for me was when I don't remember the joke, but when Tenel Carr told a joke to Luke.
Yeah, that's near the
I
end. I
thought
think
that was a really nice,
Yeah.
really nice little moment. Obviously not to Jason. I don't think that's coming for a long time. But I really
find
liked that.
her new attempt at laughing is quite cute because she cannot do
Yeah,
it. She
ha,
just
ha,
says,
haha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since we're
She's
jumping right
learning,
into
but-
it, speaking of that chapter where she makes a joke, I love how show-offy Luke is in this book. He's like very show-offy. Like I feel like I had a memory of him in this series as being very like reserved and calm. So I was just it amused me that like when he like picked up the big Rancor head with his arms crossed, it was like, dude, you're just showing off. And then he picks the Night Sister up, like turns her upside down and spins her and throws her into a escape pod. Like, bro.
I think it's two things. I think one is that I feel like he doesn't feel threatened by this other academy, but I think he wants to show that the light side is stronger.
That's what
and
I
think
got.
I think the other thing is I think a lot of the time he wants to show that the Force is stronger than like a lightsaber or than war or any sort of violence. I think that's what he's trying to show. But it is very entertaining to see him do stuff like that.
The impression I got
At this point, you were saying, Gabe, like he's extremely overpowered. He's gone through like he's played around with the dark side. He's tried to be too powerful
I think
and stuff like that.
the purpose of Luke in this series is not to have another arc. He's had his arc.
No.
He's had his story, and this is
get
Jason
this
and James'
feeling
story.
that I think there's actually a line where it says like when he finds that they've been taken, obviously he's worried and wants to go chase them, but he's actually filled more with like excitement that he gets to go on this little like adventure. Like there's because he's not worried like that. He knows he can save them. I think he's at a level where he knows like I'll get them. Like I'm Luke Skywalker.
hardly-
Like it's not that much of an issue.
I love
It's
it.
hardly the first time they've been kidnapped either.
Yeah.
By this point, they have been kidnapped so many times that I think you should laugh again.
Yeah, Jason is my favorite character of the Young Jedi Knight series overall, but in this book, the Luke Tenel Ka like adventure was easily my favorite part.
Yeah, it was really good, yeah.
Oh, I forget the name of the place, Borgo Prime maybe, but the little like
Something like that.
hive of
The
scum
Mos
and
Eisley
villainy.
type place.
Yeah, that they go to, and Luke's just like having fun, and she's like about to drink alcohol, and Luke leans over, and is like, maybe don't. I don't think you can handle it.
It's when it turns away and he says like that will he sort of whispers how much
He's
it'll
like, that'll
do, and
knock
she,
you
like,
out.
puts it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And
very
then
good
she pours
subtle
it on
humor. Very
a
good.
sentient houseplant as well. I
Oh, yeah.
love all like the different alien species we get in this series. Like there were the bird people
I
at
think-
the Jedi Academy.
I think what makes it so enjoyable for more adults to read, and even I think it would work well on kids because it's a novel. Is that the humor's quite subtle. It's not like really in your face and like really like kiddie or anything.
It's
Like
not
it's quite
self-aware.
clever.
It's very genuine.
Yeah.
I love this is like my
Mhm.
favorite kind of humor where it's not like self-aware winking at you. It's just very genuine because this is
Yeah,
just the
it's very
characters
much,
being themselves.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of it is. I think that Rebecca is the other writer, because I think Kevin, who I really like, doesn't show this sort of humor in a lot of his other work. So I think it's more of his wife coming through, and it's very much the sort of thing that drawn me to Oren Alston's novels in New Jedi Order, Legacy of the Force, like X-Wing. In that, unlike other authors like Michael Stackpole, who also does amazing stories, it's more like humor than comedy. It's not trying. The comedy isn't driving the story. The story is its own thing, and there's humor alongside it, which feels like
Even
natural.
when it is self-aware, I thought it was still well done and funny. There's a point where Loie has that like outlash in class, and the stormtroopers are trying to like take him
Subdue
down,
him, yeah.
and like some of the stormtroopers like shoot each other. Like I thought that was just like that just lines up with them. They mean that they're stumbling through the door, and then the ones who are firing through the door immediately take out all the ones that are trying to hold down Loie.
That was a great scene too, by the way. I loved
Yeah.
reading Lobaka just crash out and start breaking things like because you get it's just a reminder. It's like yes, they're all Jedi Knight, but he is a Wookiee, which is cool.
Yeah, it's
I was
harder for
actually
him,
worried
isn't it?
when they were torturing him and pushing him to the dark side that he might like fall a bit easier because he has that like innate rage. But luckily he doesn't, or at least not in this novel. I don't know actually the arc of his character, so I don't know what's going to happen with him. So I was like, maybe he does turn at this point. I don't know.
Speaking of falling
It's,
to the
um,
dark side, I was just gonna say Gabriel is gonna hate
Yeah.
this, but with the inevitability of Darth Caedus in mind, I thought that this novel unintentionally like foreshadows it with Jason. Like Jason's given the lightsaber, he wants it. He and Jana
I
have
can
their
see that,
duel
yeah.
together. I was like, they didn't know the Caedus thing was gonna happen. I know people hate that, but knowing that's coming and reading this is like seeing Jason and Jana fighting, both of
think,
them in the visage of Darth Vader.
As a young Jedi Knights fan, there will be parts of Legacy of the Force that you really enjoy. Even if even if I manage to make you agree with my opinions later on, like I still enjoy it. Like I still enjoy. I say all the time, I still enjoy Legacy of the Force. I just imagine like it's a sort of different character. And I mean, Legacy of the Force has so much to do with young Jedi Knights. It's definitely. Troy Denning very much, he writes a New Jedi Order novel. He once said Legacy of the Force is the direct sequel to that novel, as if the other NJO books didn't happen. And it does read like that. But I think it does feel more like a mysterious war happened between Young Jedi Knights and Legacy of the Force. Like it's more of a continuation of Young Jedi Knights than it's a continuation of New Jedi Order. But what I was going to say links into that in that actually one of the reasons I really enjoyed this book was more than the other book. I was reading loads of things and going, oh yeah, I know that, because it comes back or is mentioned later on in other novels. And you'd be surprised by how important this series is to later stuff. Like a lot of this stuff, you don't need to read Young Jedi Knights for the other novels, not at all. But so many stories and plots and characters become really major later on from Young Jedi Knights.
I was
It's
surprised
quite
that this
interesting.
was Brackus's introduction, because there are points where they kind of give like some exposition about him, and I thought like, oh, there's clearly a book somewhere else that introduces him, and I've not seen that, and this is trying to like catch me up. But like, no, this is his introduction to the entire series. This is the first book he's in. So
Yeah,
I thought
this
that was
is-
kind of cool. Like, yeah, it's
I
not until
can't
I
remember if it
Jedi I
was-
think you get a bit more, and that was like 3 years later.
Yeah, I Jedi, he's very good in that, and he's also in the New Rebellion, which is a really underrated novel. I think they were done later, but they do a lot to hint at Luke's story with Brachus. That's why I have read both of them, so I already have Brachus's backstory, and it is more
Yeah.
exciting because I have seen Luke training him and sort of
Well, that's
not
exactly
really
what I
saying
found weird.
anything
The
about
way
it.
they talk about it in this book, I was like, clearly, they're just paraphrasing a book that's already happened. But like, no, how briefly
that
it
will
is
happen.
actually just the introduction. Yeah, it's not happened yet.
Yeah, that's it's a rare thing where I think it's because Michael Stackpole especially was one of the few that liked collaborating with other authors. In this time where there wasn't as strict control over the EU, people would go against each other all the time. My favorite Mara, I always say she was a victim of that. Her story was flandered for ages before Michael Stackpole and Timothy Zahn sort of rescued her. But it does mean Michael Stackpole, he does look at the other stuff that was done and thinks about what you can do with it. And Brachis is obviously one. Those Michael A. Stackpole, Aaron Alston, and Timothy Zahn were the best at that. Looking at what other people have done and doing something interesting with it. So I think it's really cool that Brachis is in some other stuff, and obviously I know him a little better because I've read that stuff. It's very interesting. He has actually changed quite a bit since I last saw him in the New Rebellion. He's a very different character. He's obviously a lot has happened in the years since, but there's some little things, I guess, to talk of a little criticism, but I get why they did it. Is the sort of vagueness around whatever empire this is, and I'm sure it will be
Second
expanded upon
Imperium.
later, but. Yeah, I think one of the issues is that this is a time of peace, and the Empire has been, they've sort of not joined together with the New Republic yet, but there's a truce between them. There's peace, there's no war. But the reason none of that's here is not a story reason. It's that Kevin J. Anderson, he knew. First of all, one example is he knew that Mara and Luke were going to be married, but the book wasn't out yet, so he didn't put Mara in this series to not spoil it, which, again, I get why. And probably the same with the Empire, in that he didn't want to spoil that they had already, there's already peace between them. Although, like I said, I don't know yet. Maybe it's going to be explained later on and expanded into something, because, like this Second Imperium, we don't really know its links to the rest of the Remnant. They've sort of made a remark
from the the viewpoint that this is probably a child who's only seen the OT and don't know anything else from the EU. So we have to ease them in, and we can't drop too much exposition. They're going to be confused. They're going to think I've missed like loads of things. So I think that's why they're so big. They just call him like the new leader. Like we don't know anything about the
at the end of the book. They reference the new leader.
I think we're going to find out sooner or later.
Have you guys read any of the other books in this series?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I know bits of the story.
We're going to start getting more EU characters introduced. I don't remember what, but I think maybe the next one even. But as it goes on, more and more characters from the other books start kind of. I know Kip Duran shows up in one of the Young Jedi Knight books, for instance. I think Corin Horn might. I don't remember. I know Kip does, but we're going to start seeing more of them kind of coming into play as we go.
I'm excited for that. Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I guess it's not a criticism because it was so short. If it was longer, it would be. I kind of like it though here that it was, as much as I really enjoyed I think the story with Luke and Tenel Ka was great. The stuff with Jason and Jaina was very much set up for further story to come. Obviously, this Shadow Academy is going to become something important, and Brachis and his students will sort of learn to fight, and will be a threat.
Brachis plays a major role.
It's good academy versus bad academy, and that's going to be the protagonist antagonist kind of thing in the later books.
Yeah, I thought we were going to meet. I can't remember his name. There's a male character in Young Jedi Knights that I thought we were going to meet here, but I don't remember his name right now. Zek. I thought we might meet Zek here. But,
no, I think that's the next one.
We haven't yet. Yeah.
I think Zek.
We weren't introduced to like any of the kids really from the Shadow Academy.
Yeah, no. Really.
Yeah,
they were just like background characters. They were just like walk to a classroom like, oh, there's other people there. Who cares?
And we barely. I don't think we saw any of the Jedi students because we didn't. I mean, we spent so little time on Yavin, so none of them were.
No, other than the child of the politician. I forgot his name already, but the one who bullies Jason or tries to bully Jason.
What, Raynar?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh,
that was the only one I remember.
Yeah, the reason I don't remember that is because I read the first few chapters of this book like a month or two ago, and then I finished it more up in like the last few days.
That was in the first book actually. I think within this book there is no. You don't even. There are none of the other Jedi.
Yeah,
they immediately start like meeting up with Lando essentially.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that none of the other Jedi students are in this? This book almost feels like it's bridging book 1 and 3 more than its own story somehow.
I agree. I thought it was good, but like I said, I would have been annoyed with that if it were longer. But the length made it so it wasn't an issue. Like I don't care that this book is probably more set up for future books because it wasn't a hassle to read. It was still a fun time. And I
Yeah.
think what made it really enjoyable was Luke and Tenelcar. Like we said, that was
That was
really
the best
good. I
part.
loved that story. It was great. I loved reading them too. They had such good chemistry, which I didn't expect because they never seemed to show that off before. But yeah, I think Luke. I enjoy his interesting relationship with that culture and that
The
and
Dathomirians.
and Dathomir and stuff like that. Yeah, I haven't
Oh.
read Courtship, but I know a little bit about what
Probably
goes
don't.
on, and it's hinted. Yeah, it's hinted at in this book enough. That I think it's fun. Like I love when he sort of jokes about Tenelkar's mother sort of kidnapping him to marry him. I thought that was
He
quite
does.
funny.
Yeah, they mention enough to know, like, okay, that like they're clearly linked, and like he knows a lot about the culture and that kind of stuff. I feel like it gives you everything you need to know. That I never felt like, because I knew this was alluding to that book, but I never felt like, oh, I've missed out
Yeah.
because I've not read it.
Yeah, Dathomir very much is kind of abandoned later on. Haps isn't, which I really like. In fact, there's a lot of like Haps stuff in the New Jedi Order and Legacy of the Force that I didn't like originally. I think I will really enjoy now. I know Tenelcar and I know the culture and stuff like that. I think I'll really enjoy. Dathomir doesn't come back for a long time. When it does, I really enjoy what they do with it. But Dathomir just sort of
That's all right.
disappeared. I think
wondering-
because
Disney
of-
will go on to overuse Dathomir forever,
They will,
always.
I think the problem comes from the Clone Wars because the Clone Wars really changes Dathomir and Night Sisters to something that they weren't in the books, and I think they sort of just thought if it's been changed, but like might as well just ignore it.
Yeah. Well, the
Which
Jedi
is the
games are kind of
mentality.
set up that there's barely anything there anymore, anyway.
Yeah, this was a long. Do you guys know that this book came out the year I was born? Like these are old. These are like the first book is like
These are
1993 or
old
4.
EU versions.
Yeah, this is
I was
these tales
wondering,
are.
and I guess now that you said that, we'll never know. But like, where did the new Night Sisters come from? Like, they kind of just dropped that, like, oh, there were the Night Sisters in that previous book with
And now they're
the
back.
Courtship of Princess Leia, and then
Yeah,
they were defeated, and now they're back. And then I guess you
think-
never kind of learned where that happened.
I think it's supposed to be really that by this point, there's a noticeable shift. Luke, Leia, Han, they're older figures, and it's not like it's like JJ famously said to Mark Hamill, "It's not your story anymore." That is the case here, and that's fine.
But it's handled much better here.
It's handled way better. It's fine for it not to be their story, but it depends how you handle it. Here it's handled well, but I think where I'm going is that it has been some time, and I suppose the idea is supposed to be in a better way. It's happened, off the page. We've not seen it,
Yeah.
but over the years where there's been a lot of peace and not much happening, this has been bubbling up. That would be my attempt at defending it, but I do think there could have been a bit more of an explanation to it.
You can easily just think, a Tamith Kai type character, a Dathomiri who was led to the dark side was like, oh, I remember learning about those Night Sisters, or maybe she knew about them as a kid. Let's bring them back, and then that's how it happened.
Yeah.
You can quite easily see that.
Yeah, it's why I think
happening.
I don't know if it's ever been done, but it would be an interesting concept for someone to try do that with a Sith. Like not a real Sith. Someone just sort of looks back and thinks, I want to be a Sith, and then it doesn't. There never be a proper Sith. But, that could be an interesting story.
I thought that's what they were going to do with the Acolyte, to be honest with you, but that's not the direction they went. I thought that's what it was going to be because it makes sense. It's like he wasn't really a Sith, but that gives you an excuse for an antagonist.
Yeah,
That's not what they did.
Yeah.
No.
yeah, that could have been interesting.
Yeah. I find
I
it
do like,
interesting actually how Tenelcar wasn't aware of how powerful Luke was. Like she actually worried, like, oh, maybe he's not actually that powerful, and I've just been baited this whole time. Like that's clearly they only like he doesn't show off that much. They're working off like they know of all the stories, of course, but she's actually she worries for a bit. Like, maybe the dark side is stronger.
In my head,
he's playing it along.
I thought in my head that that's why he decided to start showing off like that. I
Yeah,
feel
well,
like he was
did
sensing.
mention after he showed off, he said like the dark side is not stronger. I think he did feel like he read her
Yeah,
mind
to
and he was like,
Tenelcar,
I
yeah.
need to I need to
Exactly.
show off now to be like, no, it is strong.
He's like,
I
I'm
can
just
do some
playing
stuff."
it up here. We're fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
guess
I
he's-
noticed.
he's almost too much of the calm leader at times. Where people they might even
Well,
have those doubts.
Yeah, they forget what he's
That
capable
is
of.
that is his story in the New Jedi Order very much, that he is too much the peaceful, laid back sort of leader, that it becomes his detriment, that he's scared to act.
Yeah, speaking of that scene again, though, something that I was kind of trying to figure out, weren't they? Can you can you eject an escape pod when you're in light speed? Because they were in hyperspace, right? How does that work?
They said it would take 2 days to travel to the Shadow Academy, and I wasn't sure if they actually said they'd gone into hyperspace or not.
I guess I just
Just that
assumed
it would take 2 days.
I would.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't clarified, so I just imagined they did it and then went into hyperspace.
When they
is what
said
I
it
would
was
say.
2 days, I did immediately think when we mentioned in Deceived how Deceived happens over 3 days, and they like literally light speed across the
Bouncing all over
galaxy
the place.
doing that.
Yeah, because they
was
wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to draft them out of hyperspace though, because like I remember, I'll have to find it one day. I do have it saved somewhere. Timothy Zahn talks about hyperspace. I might have mentioned this before, well before The Last Jedi came out, and he said that if you could come out of if you could hit something through hyperspace, there would be no need for Death Stars or anything like that, because you could always just put a ship on autopilot, put it in hyperspace, and blow up entire planets with that whenever you wanted. So it must mean that you have to accelerate into hyperspace and then decelerate out of hyperspace. You can't just, hit something through hyperspace or whatever, which he said before The Last Jedi came out, which I thought was quite ironic that he ended up talking about that before. But I think, by those rules, I would just imagine before, or I don't know, even if it doesn't make any sense if they did it during hyperspace, would it? Like, it's not really how it works.
I got a comment here that says you can, but you can't exit hyperspace with an escape pod. Happens once in the Black Fleet Crisis books. Have you read those?
Black Fleet Crisis. Not. I have a plan to read them at some point. I've read a
Hello,
bit of
New
the
Yorker.
first one. It's very much to do with. It has a lot about spaceships, because obviously it has about the fleet. So I think that's interesting. It does some cool stuff. Like Luke gets a new ship and a new droid, and he obviously doesn't like them, even though they're better and more powerful than his X-wing and R2-D2. He's not happy with them.
Yeah, he's
I was
gonna.
surprised he didn't use the X-wing for this. So I'm not sure if he's already lost it at this point, but he decides to use a shuttle to go to Lando's space station.
I think he did that
and
because
he takes Lando's ship.
I think he did that so he could remain incognito and people didn't see, like, because an X-wing is very much a military starfighter. So if people see an X-wing
And
flying
at this point, it's probably seen mostly as only Luke uses one. I assume at this point, because it's been like 30 odd years since the Battle of Yavin.
yeah, and he was taking
no,
10
it was
Ka,
15 years, but
and
still.
I think X-wings only seat one, so he couldn't have taken 10
True.
Ka if he had taken the X-wing.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of
they
the...
still X-wings stick around for a lot longer, but they use a lot of other ships in tandem with them, like E-wings and stuff like that. And you do get some new ships as well around, but it's like all the old vets prefer X-wings because they fought in the rebellion with them, so that's what they like. So that's why they stick around for a while.
Speaking of that I found that pretty interesting that Brackus refers to the New Republic as the Rebels. And then, like, in 2 pages later, it calls it the New Republic. But Brackus says something about before the rebels find us. I'm like, what rebels, dude? They're the establishment. What are you talking about?
That's like when you read the Thrawn trilogy and the New Republic has taken Coruscant and they're the power in the galaxy, and then you read Dark Empire and they're the rebels and the Empire.
Yeah,
is
like
not
what?
the Imperial Remnant anymore.
You
That's
could easily play that though as Brackus being like, he doesn't want to admit that they're a New Republic. He wants to keep calling them like what he thinks in his archaic view of like.
He's
from
like,
the
they're
Empire's
still
point of
just
view, right?
rebels. Yeah.
They're still just rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier I was
that's
thinking of
kind
the
of,
Arc one of the Arc 170 where like you got the 2 clone troopers back to back, and I was like, oh, 10 o'clock can just go behind him, but obviously that's just the predecessor for the X-wing, not the X-wing itself.
Yeah, they probably it's interesting. It's kind of unconsciously part of probably why he's gonna fail, because that's sort of what that's what Pelion says, that when they keep thinking of themselves as the Empire and they're the rebels, but they've already lost. Like they have already lost.
Yeah, they own Coruscant and all of the core systems at this point. Like
they're not rebels anymore. They're a full government, more powerful and stronger than the Imperial
with more
Remnant.
resources and planets. Like the Imperial Remnant are the rebels. The Imperial Remnant has become the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, you could tell there's a lot of delusion. Like he's saying, like, oh, we need our our new Jedi Academy because we need to raise a Jedi, a Jedi Order like the old Empire or the old Republic had, because he still sees, I guess, the Empire as being the natural progression of what the old Republic was. Like the old Republic became the Empire, and like, oh, we need a Jedi Order like they had, and that's why they had so much peace for so long, because they could use their Jedi to fight everything.
Which I did think that was a super cool little fact about these books being written in the 90s, is that they completely predate the prequels and the depiction of the Jedi Order and whatnot. So they don't call themselves like Sith or Dark Jedi. Like the people of the Shadow Academy just refer to themselves as Jedi Knights. I thought that was interesting. Whereas if that was made post prequel, they would have been referring to themselves as like Dark Jedi or Sith or whatever.
Yeah.
And when he gives Jason a lightsaber, in my head I was like, oh, he's gonna activate. It's gonna be red, and then it was blue. I was like, oh, right, because color hadn't been established as good or bad, so they just gave Force wielders any old color they wanted, regardless of affiliation.
Mm-hmm. But even from the prequel,
which we can talk more about next video.
You can just imagine it instead that Brackus just, he sees himself, even though he's using the dark side, and he says the dark side is like the way to go, he still sees himself as a Jedi. He doesn't see that there's any difference. He still thinks that we're going to be like the Jedi Order of the prequels, even though that obviously hadn't happened. They're going to be using blue and green lightsabers, I guess.
When I first started reading it, I laughed myself about how laughably bad like Tamith Kai is as a villain. Like almost, I don't want to say she's badly written, but she's written to the point where she's so one note evil, and she does nothing. Like she's walks around.
She is complete
complete absence of character, like, and charm, and
which I do kind of like. But the only actual thing she does in the whole book is use the Force to like tear that door down and then stomp off, and then immediately Tenel Ka like one shots her with a kick to the knee,
breaks a knee,
which is crazy.
All I know about her, she's moody. She has a black cape with like stars or whatever, like sparkly, and she has very red lips because it's brought up every single time she speaks or is on the page or anything.
And she can't fight at all because Tenel Ka just like kicks her in the knee, which in my head was really
her
funny.
Leg, I think. Oh, she breaks her leg.
She did.
Yeah, she does. She breaks
her leg.
Yeah.
But
Brackus is like this wannabe dark, like gray Jedi, right? He's like, he uses the light and the dark. Whereas Tamith Kai is like just your generic full of rage dark side user. Like there's nothing more to her. She's just like always angry.
What I do find interesting is the sort of definitive Night Sister magic is the dark side in this book, or what they're doing is the dark side, because especially like now there's this whole thing that Night Sister magic is like different to the Force that the Jedi use, and it's like definite in this. It's more like they access it in a different way, and it's still the same thing, and that what these Night Sisters are using is the dark side, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
I
get
a feeling that at this point only the Jedi like knew how to use light side. If you think of like at this period in the EU, like it just seemed like anyone else using the Force, they can only use it for the dark side. Like they can only use emotions and make it.
I would say it's not true, but mainly for a few books, because in I, Jedi, for example, they say that in the time of the Republic, the light side users weren't just the Jedi, and that there were different orders. Like the Jedi, Corellians had their own Jedi that were different to the Republic's Jedi, sort of an offshoot.
Yeah, the cult that called it the Potentium.
Yeah, there was loads of different sort of Force religions, but it's actually more of a retroactive thing that it's been changed to, they're all wrong and bad, and that the Jedi are the only right one. Because
I agree with that.
The prequels came out and none of that was there.
I think the way that the Force is kind of described, it actually makes sense to me that trying to use it in any way would be dark side, because the Jedi don't use the light side. They're not like picking. The Jedi like allow it to like be their ally. That's why they call it their ally. So what they learn is to not use it. It's a passivity. Being one with the Force and then like allowing it to help you is the way the Jedi use it. So any manner of learning to use the Force would inherently be dark side, because you're attempting to take it and then employ it for self-gain. Whereas the reason I think that the Jedi come across as like some of the only light side users is because they don't use it. They allow it to like be with them. Is kind of how I read that.
Yeah, it's not just a tool for their benefit, which is how it seems like, at least in this book, that's how everyone else is using it. And that's why, Luke says the Night Sisters using like the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, their tool is the lightsaber, but the Force is not, something to be used or,
Yeah, Luke never draws. He draws his lightsaber at the very end, but he doesn't activate it. Like there's very little lightsaber usage in this book. Like when he sees Brackus, he like holds it in front of him. He's like, "Are we about to fight?" I thought they were. I was a little disappointed because I thought we were going to get a show. What I thought, because I haven't read this book in like 2 decades, but what I thought was going to happen was that the twins were going to fight Brachus and Luke was going to fight Tamith Kai, but instead
Damn,
Tenel
that's
Ka
what I thought would happen.
she just one-shots Tamith Kai's knee, and I can't get over that.
Yeah.
It's over so fast.
It's obviously it's just because, right, they wanted to introduce the Shadow Academy, and they thought, how do we do that, Jason and Jaina? And then they thought, well, we want these guys to battle, but not yet, so just come up with a way to get them all out, and we'll have them rematch eventually. Look, I'll say not even rematch because they didn't really fight. We'll have them fight eventually.
A proper fight, which I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Because I read the third one a long time ago as well, but I thought the events of the third one happened in this book, so I was like waiting for it to happen. And by the time I was in like chapter 18, I was like, oh, that's just not going to happen. We don't have time. So then I realized, oh, that's the next book where all that happens. But there's a lot of stuff that goes down.
I did feel that the escape at the end was rushed because I got to the point where Luke and Tenel Ka are still on Dathomir. They're passing the trial to get onto the shuttle to go to the Shadow Academy, and it's like it said on the Kindle like 90% of the way through, and I'm like, well, what the hell? Where's all the final bit gonna happen?
Because there's only one chapter where they're like on the shuttle and then they're at the station. It does happen.
Yeah.
It does feel like they started rushing.
I did feel like the escape was a bit frustrating in that Jason could have escaped on day one. Like
because he had that gem the whole time.
Cool plan.
Jason just
the plan
waited.
the whole time was the gem,
and they just kept mentioning that he had it.
They kept mentioning that he had the gem, and that was
Jason
the entire plan.
Jason was just like waiting for an idea, and then at the end he just sort of decided, okay, I've not got an idea, just do it and see what happens, and that worked. Yeah.
That was like the most annoying thing because I was waiting for the idea as well. If it did feel like the authors they couldn't come up with anything, and they were like, "Well, we brought this gem with us."
Yeah.
I just found it. I guess he could use the Force to not do this or whatever, but I was just thinking, wouldn't that really hurt, like having that in his shoe?
Yeah, just I thought you meant like carving it.
It's said that
they do mention that.
The sharpest material in the galaxy.
The sharpest,
He's got it in his shoe.
They do mention that it's like uncomfortable, and
but
he has to like navigate it in his shoe once.
I didn't. For some reason, I didn't imagine it as like this tiny little pebble. Like I imagined it as this like big rock that he had to.
I think it was supposed to be like this big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's meant to be like decently small. Because
he puts it in his shoe.
I can't remember if it's the one he gets from.
It's the one he gets from mining.
Yeah.
And then they keep mentioning that he has
sequence. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good like suspenseful sequence actually at the beginning, and I liked like Lando being like the cool, dangerous uncle.
I liked that too. Yeah, I also like it how at the end they're like Lando has reinforced his station security as if that's ever gonna happen again.
Yeah. Has Lando? Is Lando married yet in this or not?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, there's this whole great thing in the Corellian trilogy where he gets Luke to help matchmake him and find a wife who is rich so that he can use all of her money. But she'll marry him for him to do business with her money was the idea. Obviously, he's found money some other way.
Yeah.
I like that
his perpetual arc is that he always wants to make money and he's clearly not very good at it.
I love that.
Yeah, well, what they said in the Corellian trilogy is that he makes money right, like he does a good job of it, but he always wants to do something else. And like he gets a new idea.
He just gets bored.
To his new idea. Into the new idea.
Over and over and over and over.
He's an entrepreneur. He makes a business, sells it, makes another one. I can respect it. They did him way more justice in the EU than they did in Disney, where he just shows up randomly in episode 9 on a planet.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, what was up with that? He's just there all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's not like mentioned until that point either. Like he just sort of appears.
He's just there. So yeah, they did much better.
He's there so that everyone will clap and cheer and give it good reviews.
Which they literally did in the theater when I saw episode 9. Like he was on screen and people started clapping, and I was sitting there like, "This is not good. This is not good storytelling. Why is he here? I'm as excited to see Lando as anybody else, but could you? This is not the way."
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see Mando and Grogu, or did y'all skip out on that one?
I saw it.
I've not seen it yet. No.
I remember you did. I remember you telling me that you saw it. I didn't see it.
We should probably do an episode when it hits Disney Plus inevitably.
That's
just mention at the start of a video, do a quick review.
I'll have probably seen it by that point.
I'll watch
mine
it when it goes
aligns
to
with
streaming.
like everyone was saying like the backlash to the reviews, right? But mine aligns like it was entertainment. That's my review. That's like all the reviews, right? It's a fun film. It's like, yeah, it was entertainment. I can say it was that.
Hopefully, now
Yeah.
that Dave can do literally anything he wants, however he wants. I don't know what we're gonna get, but I hope it's
He's
more
gonna cast himself
consistent.
as every character. And
What
they will all have cowboy hats.
I want whatever the name of his in-universe New Republic like pilot character is. I want that a Star Wars
Yeah.
story. That a Star Wars story.
Yes.
And it's just
Yeah.
him and his pilot fiasco. You know, I could have understood putting him in as a background cameo once. It's the fact that they put him in twice.
Twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't
could
have
be called,
to be in the X-Wing thing.
Call him something really subtle like Grave Baloney.
Gravy baloney.
Yeah.
A true glop shitto character.
I'm gonna have to find what George Lucas wanted them to call Starkiller originally. Like he
Darth
came up with, like,
Icky.
Isn't
It was
it
Darth
Darth
Nasty.
Icky?
Yeah.
Darth
Yeah.
Nasty or Darth Icky were his suggestions.
Yeah.
And I think he was being dead serious because he thought the idea itself was dumb. I think they were explaining his Darth Vader secret apprentice, and he was probably like, "Dude, this is so stupid." I don't think he
Yeah.
liked it.
I'm not sure he I guess he signed off on it because Rebels was still under
He did.
Lucas Arts at the time. But like I'm surprised he liked the I can't remember what they're called. The fake Sith that work under the Sith.
Which ones? The
Yeah.
Inquisitors?
The Inquisitors, yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
the
I
Inquisitorius.
had,
Was,
I had Insidious
Rebels
in my mind because I
was-
was thinking of Darth Sidious, and I was like, they're not called the Insidious.
the
Rebels.
Inquisitorius.
Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Yes,
Rebels was
Inquisitorius,
Disney.
Yeah.
Rebels was Disney because it was their cheaper replacement for the Clone Wars when they cancelled it.
Oh no, you're right. They cancelled the last season. Oh no, so I'm not even sure he would have
Yeah.
been behind like the Inquisitors. I think he liked the idea of there just being two.
Did you guys see?
Yeah, I think my favorite example of why the EU handled that very differently is Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, which we should read at some point because it's
we're gonna.
and it's incredible. And there's a whole bit about Darth Vader wants to go after Jedi, and the Emperor doesn't even want him to, and thinks he's wasting his time because the Emperor would rather the Jedi that had left wallow in their misery and know they have lost than be hunted down.
Very Emperor, very Palpatine.
That is very Emperor, and I don't know if he would. I guess Disney, you might say maybe there's more Jedi out there that he's worried about, but I just like the idea that it's more Vader's obsession than the Emperor's, because the Emperor is very involved with making the Inquisitors and stuff like that, which I'm not sure I buy that. It's not an enormous critique, but I definitely prefer like the EU version where he's not even that bothered. He's just like, you're wasting your time, Vader.
Yeah. Vader's just doing it to cope. Like it's this way of tying himself to the dark side completely. Is that he has to see himself as other from the Jedi, and that they were the bad guys.
Well,
I
he
don't think
really
the
does
Emperor
That's a
hate
good
them.
take.
Like he really does
Yeah.
hate them at that point, and he really wants to kill them all. Like that's his obsession. He's obsessed with killing all of them. That's why the Emperor's like, "What are you doing? Calm down."
Because the Emperor doesn't actually believe that they were the bad guys. The Emperor knows he manipulated them, so he's not.
Yeah.
He's not like we have to take out these hated beings. Whereas Vader has to
Yeah.
keep convincing himself that they have to be destroyed.
Maybe Vader would have chilled out if the Emperor hadn't ensured that his suit kept him in constant pain all of the time. Maybe if
Yeah.
he didn't want him to constantly be trying to kill Jedi, he could have given him a better suit.
Maybe he just needs to hang out
I
in the
do
back of the
think-
tank all the time.
Yeah.
Just stay there.
I think there's I can't remember if it's in that book or somewhere, but I'm pretty certain he is offered when he sort of embraces being Vader. He's offered to have his suit more comfortable, and he chooses no. He says no, and he chooses to have it the way it is.
Such an
because
Anakin thing to do.
Yeah, he thrives on that pain and that hatred, and it just makes him so much more angry.
This is a little
He
bit.
made sure I bet he told them as well in the most dramatic way he could. Like, oh, it's because I need to feel the suffering and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sure he
He's
did.
just he's such a drama student.
Yeah.
Did you guys see? I forget what his name is, but I think he was one of the major producers on the prequel trilogy. Tweeted out either earlier or later last week that the fact that Star Wars Underworld didn't come out was like the greatest disappointment of his entire life, because they had 50
He
scripts
said,
and
he said his and George Lucas's careers is what he said. So it was for both of them.
because they worked on that show for like 6 years. They wrote 50 scripts. They filmed like enough footage for an entire season, but George would not. I don't know.
And
It's somewhere
I
out
think
there.
it's the,
Someone has seen it.
From what I know, it's that it was so expensive. They needed another company, and they just wouldn't do it. because it was so expensive. And I can just imagine George's disappointment because he has pushed technology further and further and further and further. And for him, this was like the next leap. And I can just imagine the frustration. It's probably part of why, I honestly believe it's part of why he sold, because he knew what he wanted to do, and those other companies wouldn't put in the money to allow him to do it. And I think that must have been the most frustrating thing in the world for him, to the point where he must have thought, this is the only thing I want to do. There's nothing else I can do. Like, why am I doing this anymore?
Which is
It's
insane.
the common thing with Lucasfilm is that they're always early at the cutting edge. Like he was just early to the fact that like film quality CGI would come to TV.
Yeah, because
it's
Game of
more or
Thrones
less
happened
there
right
now.
after that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like he was right there.
Yeah, it
I
was.
can just imagine all the companies that they approached in a few years going, "Fuck, what have we done?" Like,
Imagine
just
turning
thinking, "Oh,
down.
no."
Imagine turning down a Star Wars show because it's going to cost you too much, like, as if you wouldn't make your money back.
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
I guess the prequels still had. I think they weren't the best liked in the public consensus at this point.
At that
But
point,
even from the accountancy viewpoint, they just had to be like, look, the prequels might not have been liked by critics, but they made a ton of money.
they were
Like you're gonna
wildly
make your
profitable.
investment back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars was
Disney
still
still
doing
made their
very well as a
investment back
company.
on the sequels. Everyone hates the sequels, but Disney made
Yeah,
money.
they made their money
Oh, yeah,
back
they made loads of money. Yeah,
on
Yeah.
the sequels alone, not to mention merchandise and everything.
yeah.
You needed to tell. I mean, that's not the best way to get a company on board, but he could have said like, "Hey, this show could be terrible, and you'll still make loads of money."
But just think then, I'm sure they would have said how much money did they need. Like it makes me think it must
It
have
must have been a
been
lot.
an insane
Well,
amount.
that was like the
Um,
story, right, with Game of Thrones when HBO like first started doing the show. It was like so exorbitantly expensive for a television show.
I bet
And
you
might
it
have been
was
more than that.
I bet you anything it wasn't the money. I bet you it's because Lucas doesn't compromise. I bet you because they had the meeting, they're like, look, we want to do it, but can we change this? Maybe we can save some money by cutting costs like this? Because that's
We
how
can
that's what
streamline the process like this.
Yeah.
that's what he
Yeah,
did
but
with the
it's
Clone
fine.
Wars. He made
yeah,
the
now
whole
people
show
have,
and he took it to, I think it was Cartoon Network, and he said, this is what it is, you can have it or not. And they said, well, it's already done, we can't make any changes. He's like, that's right, either air it or don't. That's what he did with the Clone Wars. I think he was trying to do
I
that
think
with
it's,
Underworld.
now people have stopped blaming George for things. I think it's become very apparent that the industry hated him.
Yes.
Just they hated him on every single level, and it's because it all goes back to the original trilogy, and it's that he didn't
'cause he
make
screwed
it
him
the
over.
way that that they
'Cause he
wanted
kept the
him
merch
to.
rights.
He cut the
Yeah.
merch
He
rights
kept
and the
merch
sequel
rights.
rights.
He kept sequel rights.
Mhm.
He changed so much, from the way that the credits were done. And he wasn't part of all the like groups that they wanted him to be part of. They hated him for that. and they
He was
held that against
outside
him.
of them and more successful than them, and I think all of them hated him for it.
Yeah.
That's part of why the prequels were such a struggle for him, because from what I know, he didn't want to do the amount of work he had to do on the prequels. But it's because of
No
those
one else.
issues he was having.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
When you watch the behind the
they wouldn't
scenes,
do
like
it.
they're always worried about the budget, and you would think like a massive film like that. Normally they're like, we don't, the budget is whatever. We can go back to the publisher and be like, give us more money, and they'd be like, okay, sure.
Well,
But they had to care about that because it was his own
independent.
money.
It was independently filmed.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about the prequels and their budgets is that all three of those movies went over budget, by the way. Like The Phantom Menace, I think he wanted to make for between 50 and 60 million, and it ended up being like 115 million or something like that. But each movie made double or triple its budget back,
Yeah.
And shockingly, The Acolyte alone had a bigger budget than like Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones put together. So I think another part of the problem is that these studios just balloon their budgets way beyond what they need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of that was probably
I think,
cast as well.
That's
I think
probably
as
true.
well.
They were
I think
fairly
there's
unknowns in the prequel.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but I think an issue is, I mean, it's even more unfortunate now. The state of the TV industry. I literally, for my uni work, I wrote one of my essays on the TV industry right now and streaming and how awful it is and how it has just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. It costs more and more, takes longer and longer to make, and gets shorter and shorter. That is the state of television right now. And to think, imagine if George had got onto it and they'd given him that money and he'd done Underworld. If he was one of the leading figures in streaming, I am certain it would be in a better place today
I agree.
than it is now. Like, sure, other companies might have done things badly, but I think he would have kept it on track by his, just doing what he wants to do.
Which is what he is notorious
Yeah.
for doing. Whatever he wants
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. All right, so do we have
Do you
anything
think
else to say?
Underworld is gonna go into that vault? Like Lucas says, he has a vault, right, of like all the movies that he's made, but he's never gonna show, and that we'll
Uh,
never see. Do you think that gets in there?
I'm sure he has a copy of it in there. He has to, right? Like he doesn't own the
Yeah,
rights to
there's
Underworld
Yeah.
anymore, but
and there is some footage out there.
yeah, there's
If
screenshots and
you,
stuff.
yeah, if you go on YouTube and look at the footage, the guy that did the NGO documentary is the guy that he posted it to YouTube. It's very interesting to see how far they got, and it still didn't, end up being fully finished and released. It's crazy to see
Multiple
how much
completed
they were doing.
episodes, 50 completed scripts, a dozen,
Yeah.
dozens of hours of shot footage completely edited. Like there's probably it's probably rough
And
with
the fact
unfinished
that-
VFX, but
Yeah. But
Yeah.
the fact that it took so long for it to be as talked about as it is insane to me. The fact that like this enormous thing happened and then just disappeared and people just didn't talk about it for like 10 years.
I think
that is
because-
crazy.
I guess it was largely kept under wraps for a long time.
and I think the
Yeah, which is
buyout
crazy something like that
is.
happens.
I think when Disney bought it out, the entire conversation became about, all right, what now? What's it going to be, rather than what did we not get? I think the disdain for the sequel trilogy largely turned the eyes backwards to, okay, well, would it have been better if George hadn't sold? And I think that's what led to a lot of
Yeah.
the Underworld.
Yeah, I think a lot of Disney buying Star Wars, I don't think George expected this, but it was very sort of, I would say it's unprofessional, but at the same time they were trying to appeal to what they thought the fans were at the time, was to know George Lucas. That was very much, I think, like one of the big pushes for Disney Star Wars was no George Lucas. We're not doing it like George, because it was that people hated him. The fans that had rejected the prequel trilogy were hated George and everything he did and the way that he did things. And I think they just wanted anything he was doing gone. They wanted to do it completely differently, and I think they wanted to completely sever ties with what Star Wars was, apart from the original trilogy, as much as they could, anywhere they could.
I think there was a sentiment among Hollywood and among the people in Hollywood that Star Wars' success was in spite of George. I think they had this idea that that was a profitable brand, but it had nothing to do with him. He had just accidentally found something, rather than he had created something incredible, is what I think what they were trying to believe. That's why
it was a
JJ
massive thing.
had the audacity to open The Force Awakens with the words, "This will begin to set things right,"
Yeah.
as a reference to undoing the prequels. Like,
Yeah.
then those three movies are more hated than any of George's stuff, except maybe that Ewok movie he made.
Yeah.
The holiday special.
Caravan of
Caravan of Courage, yeah.
and the holidays. Yeah, Caravan of Courage as well. Yeah.
I've never seen those. We should do an episode on them.
We need to watch those at some point. We need to do the holiday the holiday.
I have seen the
special
holiday
first,
special,
though.
yeah.
I've seen the holiday special. It's
I've
rough.
never seen it all the way through, but I've watched someone else reviewing it, and that was probably good enough for me, unless it's for an
Honestly,
episode.
nothing can prepare you for how bad the holiday special is. I fully went into it thinking it's going to be terrible, but it won't be as bad as people say it is. It is like the worst thing you'll ever watch.
It's actually worse than I think some people
Yeah,
say.
it is. Yeah.
That's
when
so-
I was watching,
they're
when I was
insufferable to watch.
Yeah, when I was
just can't
watching,
watch it without cringing so badly.
when Chewbacca's dad was watching VR porn, that was when I was like, "What is going on?
How did that happen? How did that special
How did that
even
happen? How did that go in? How did that go in? How did something like that go in the film?"
It's the joke from the time, right, that everyone was on cocaine, but maybe in this case they literally were, because some ideas here should never have got signed off.
Yeah, isn't there an
How
entire
many
Jefferson
people did these
Starship
ideas go through?
song that just plays for some reason?
There's a lot.
Oh,
of
there's a
just messed
part.
up- Yeah,
There's a
a
part
lot
where
of
they
things that
all-
are parodied in other shows from the 70s, which obviously have not aged well, because no one other than the people who lived then knew what it was even parodied in. And apparently, based on the reviews, there's a lot of people didn't know what it was parodied in at the time anyway. It would be like, there was
I
a
just think it's
there might be
crazy
a
when,
popular cooking personality, and we're gonna parody that, but she's in space and stuff like that.
I was just baffled, especially towards the end when all the characters get together and Leia just sort of looks off to the side and just starts singing, and then it turns into a big massive song.
That's the only reason she would do it. She said she wanted to sing.
Do you guys think that
they could get Carrie Fisher to do it?
Do you think the holiday special is why Harrison Ford hates Star Wars so much? Because he's in that?
It's partly it's
And he's
that,
talking
but
about
it's also
Life
because
Day?
everyone only ever asks him about it. I think it's mostly that he
Yeah.
gets asked about it all
Oh,
the
yeah,
time.
probably. Nobody cares
Like,
that you were in The
imagine going-
Fugitive, dude.
Yeah, like you go to promote this new film, and then they're like, "Oh, Star Wars," and I'm sure that like grates on him.
Yeah.
I bet he'd be happier if
And I
he just
think-
said Indiana Jones, because at least I think
Yeah,
he
no,
likes
I
the
think
IP a bit more.
I think a part of it is especially that he went on to do Indiana Jones, and I think he is much more. I think he likes Indiana Jones more than he likes Han Solo, like a lot more.
Yeah,
like he's
Well,
happy.
it's 'cause he's the,
like
he's
now,
the leading man as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
He was his secondary character in
Yeah.
in Star Wars.
but I think he feels that Han didn't get much of a character compared to other characters in the original trilogy.
It was probably harder to act as well, because like a lot of the time he's struggling with the dialogue.
He's like the only one with an arc in A New Hope, though. He's like the only character with a progression. And then he has another progression in Empire.
Yeah,
You know,
maybe
I
it's just
love Han.
he can't relate
but
with the character, because like all the dialogue is like it's all the techno babble, right? Like
Yeah.
I love when he's
really struggling with.
Alec Guinness
when
had
he's-
that problem,
Have
too.
you seen? Yeah, have you seen that blooper when Alec Guinness is there? He obviously just doesn't look amused at all, and they can't stop laughing, and Harrison Ford just keeps getting the line wrong over and over about the Millennium Falcon. But he's saying like, oh, and then and flying to a supermarket, and
I've seen it, yeah.
yeah.
I
Alec Guinness did not look pleased.
I love that that clip of Alec Guinness saying he doesn't understand his character. Like, he doesn't understand who he is or what he's talking. It's like, I remember thinking to myself, like, dude, you're like a professional like theater actor. There's no way you don't understand the simple mentor character. What are you talking about? No disrespect,
like,
great actor, but
Yeah.
what?
It's weird though. It's like if you don't like, for example, like my example, I guess, to compare it is growing up, like watching Doctor Who and hearing all this like time travel stuff all the time. I understand stuff with time travel on a level like a lot of people won't, and just because I've heard it so much, to the point
I
where,
hate
like,
time travel
when-
stories, by the way.
Yeah, well, when you hear like, I was complaining this the other day, like they'll have like in Doctor Who, for example, they'll have a lot of characters that will be there, so that the Doctor can say something like complicated about time travel, and then the character can say like that makes any sense, and it annoys me because I'm like, yes, it does, it makes perfect sense to me. It's not that complicated, but then I have to think, for some people that watch it, it is that
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, like,
and I guess
all the lines that Harrison Ford struggled with, none of them are that hard. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I
not
I don't think
that
so.
bad.
To
I
us, because
don't-
we grew up with them. Like when
Yeah.
he the famous line, right? He told George like, "Oh, you can write this, but you can't say it." George's rebuttal should have been just to say it, because I bet George, when he was writing it, be like, "Oh, this is easy to say."
I bet he
I've
would
got
have
no
too.
problem like saying this.
And you
Yeah.
know, it just what bothered me, like Harrison Ford is just an actor, though. What bothered me about the Alec Guinness thing is like Shakespeare dialogue, which as a theater actor he performed in Shakespeare plays, I'm sure, is objectively like difficult to learn and say. Like the way it's like written and spoken, it's because it's Old English. So like, how can that be seen as like easier than just learning some techno babble from
always,
generic sci-fi?
I always think of, what is it? Was it Christopher Lee that was talked about green screens and how it is just acting, and how it's not that
Yeah.
difficult because
Yeah.
you still have to imagine it anyway.
Yeah, I remember.
That's just what you do anyway.
I remember thinking how
Yeah.
much of a Chad he was for that, because is it
Yeah.
Ian McKellen like complained bitterly about the green screens in The Hobbit. It's like Christopher Lee
Yeah.
did it fine. He didn't care. He's like, it's not that
Yeah.
big of a deal.
Yeah. I think for Ian
they've
McKellen,
always had
'cause
special
he went
effects.
from like the grandeur of Lord of the Rings down to The Hobbit, and I think when he signed on, he was thinking it's gonna be like Lord of the Rings again. It's gonna be fun, and then he was.
I can
there on a green
understand
screen,
that,
It's
yeah.
like, this isn't what I signed up for.
I can
Because I'm
see
sure
that.
that I mean he did X-Men, right? Ian McKellen,
He did.
so I'm sure he's capable of of like the standard
green
on like
screen
in the
acting.
third film, right, when they're standing on the bridge and like it's getting tearing apart. That was obviously entirely green screen.
But to be fair though, Sir Christopher Lee is like a special kind of like cool though.
Yeah.
Dude released
Yeah.
2 metal albums in his 80s. Like,
Well, the what is it? I almost enjoy like every single Bond film. One of the few I don't like very much is the one that he's in. But
The Man with the Golden
enjoy
Gun?
it, yeah. But the only reasons I enjoy it is because of him, because he's so.
because he
amazing.
kills every role he's in.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
I've seen-
every scene in that with him is incredible.
The only movie I can think of where he probably like phoned in his performance is that one werewolf movie he's in. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No,
No, I don't.
Oh,
think so.
you
Was it
guys
back
gotta.
in-
It's like in the
back in
80s.
the Hammer horror era.
You guys,
Well,
I don't
forgot.
remember what it is, but there's a scene of him in like these comically tiny like neon sunglasses, and it's like an iconic frame. It's such a bad movie. I don't know why he agreed to be in it, but most of the time,
is it Howlin' 2? Your sister is a werewolf.
that's the one. He's in that
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
And he just like shows up sometimes and like phones in his
yeah.
lines.
I think he's definitely phoning it in because the budget was only $2 million because he's probably not even being paid that much.
Dude,
That was a rough time for him
But
to
it's
have
crazy,
accepted
like,
this film.
You never know, because I always think like Donald Pleasance, who was quite, an established actor when he was in the first Halloween, which is, like a classic, classic horror film. But then he did 2, 4, 5, 6, which progressively get worse and more terrible. And I thought for years like they must have paid him, but he wasn't paid very well for them. And he just seemed to enjoy making them. I think he just had a fun time making them. For some reason, he enjoyed being there and making those films. And he once said, like, in an interview, he said, like, well, who else are they going to use? Because it was his character, and he just sort of felt like, well, they need me, so he just sort of did it.
I love when actors just enjoy being in movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you can tell whenever they're just there to have fun with it. That's great.
That's what I like about Daniel Radcliffe. Like he seems to accept anything that gets given to him. And he's just like, whatever, I'm gonna act like a crazy person. Like whatever script you give me, I'll.
Nicolas Cage.
He doesn't have to. Yeah, I think it happens when you probably get really successful. And you're like, I don't have to work, so now I'm just.
I think from what I know, after Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe has this mindset that he just only wants to do things he enjoys and think will be really good. So he does the most odd, strange things, and he doesn't try to make like the next best film or like get loads of money or anything. Like he just does what excites him, and he puts it all into it.
I saw someone making that point about Robert Pattinson recently, that Robert Pattinson was in Twilight and hated it, and ever since then he's just been like trying to prove that he's a good actor.
Yeah, he cashed in to be like he's made his FU money, and now he's just trying to prove himself.
Yeah, well, he hates Twilight. You can find all the interviews about it. There's like a really funny video that compiles all of the Twilight interviews, and like there's one where he said that he read. Yeah, I love when he says he read the book for the film, and he said, "I thought this was made by an insane person."
Yeah, I know the one. Have you guys actually seen Twilight?
No.
I watched it for the first time a year or two.
First two.
I watched it for the first time like a year or two ago, and I think because I had heard how bad it was so much, I was expecting it to be worse. Because when I watched it, I was like, "This is just a Marvel movie for girls. It's not even that bad."
Yeah,
it's no sillier than like Ant-Man.
It's no like worse than the Harry Potter films. Like it's just fine entertainment. Like it's nothing special. Like it's aimed at a teenage girl audience. Like they're not terrible. It's important to remember the same reason like Justin Bieber's music isn't like the worst thing on the planet. But when you're like a 12-year-old boy and every girl likes Justin Bieber, you hate him. Like, it was that thing. Old teenage boys hated Twilight because they weren't Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you looked like Robert Pattinson at 15 years old, you'd be like, Twilight's actually pretty good because it's given me a lot of attention lately.
That's probably what's going on there, actually.
Yeah.
I remember when I watched, I was like, this is no sillier than like some of the stuff from like the Star Wars prequels, and I love those, It's just they're aimed at different demographics. It's not for me.
The story's a bit like stupid with the baby thing that happens in like the third film, I think it was.
I think I only watched the first two. So I don't know about that. I've seen the CGI baby.
I've not watched it all, but I've watched like reviews and videos of it online.
I've seen the CGI baby, and it's terrifying.
It's a CGI baby, and it's like, is the baby a werewolf or a vampire? And there's that whole storyline.
So do you guys? I see a comment here. Do you guys think that The Acolyte is objectively as bad as the holiday special?
No,
it's way better than the holiday special.
Yeah, nothing. I can't think of anything in Star Wars that I can think of one book that I had that much pain with. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing. It has to be a special kind of bad.
I'll say Disney has a knack, and I guess a lot of companies have a knack. If you throw enough money at it, you can make anything a 3 out of 10. Like, if you just with production value alone, you'll be like, the soundtrack, something will be good enough to pull it out of being terrible.
Yeah.
But the holiday special has nothing going for it. There's literally not a single aspect where you can be like, oh, this pulls it out of like, being 1 out of 10.
I really don't like The Acolyte, but I don't think it's bad enough to warrant like the insane amount of hatred it's got. Like, it's not good, but I just don't care about it. Like, I don't two things I don't understand. I don't understand, like petitioning for it to come back. I don't understand being angry for it to never come back. I just could not care less about what happens to it because I'm not interested at all.
I think the reason people got so angry with that show is because it was like retroactively undoing the importance of Anakin's character with the whole like this is the first like birthing a child from midichlorians alone, and Anakin it was retroactively undoing the importance of him being that kind of virgins in the Force. I think that's what people were mad about because they're like you are fan fictioning importance on your story that you shouldn't be doing, and I can see that angle.
I do.
It seems to be a lot more complex with the narrative and the story than the actual directing or.
To be fair, it depends on
that kind of stuff.
I thought the fight scenes were fine.
Level of, it depends on my level of passion for the thing for me to feel that, because my version of that is with the New Jedi Order, the Invasion comics. They do the exact same thing of trying to say, no, we're just as important as the books. This random guy you're reading about is just as important as Jason and Jaina. In fact, maybe he's more important, even though it has nothing to do with the story. And that infuriates me because what are you talking about? Like, no, you're not. Shut up. So I do get it. And I think when you try... Sometimes you just have to accept when you're making a story in a certain era, in a certain franchise, that is not the most important story going on. And you just have to accept that. And you can tell something just as interesting if you accept that. Because the most exciting and interesting stories aren't always massive stakes, massive action, most important person in the world fighting most important bad person in the world. Like, it doesn't need to be that at all times.
I also just think that thing that writers tend to do where you're introducing your new cool OC who's so cool and everybody likes him and he might be more important. Like, that never ever goes over well. Like pre-established IPs where people have already like met the characters and like them, that's what they're there for. You can't introduce this new character that is already good at everything. It never goes well. Yeah. It comes across as self-insert fan fiction.
It seems a lot of the writers that Disney were hiring didn't want to add to the universe, but instead like
replace it.
Yeah, replace it. Yeah,
that's the feeling I get a lot from it.
They weren't bolting something onto the side; they were pushing everything else down to be like, "This is the new thing."
I do think people were a little disingenuous with some of their hate. Like people say the fight scenes are garbage in the Acolyte, and I think it objectively has the best fight scenes Disney has provided. I really hated
a lot
that
of Star Wars hate feels like that. Like people said, like with the Mandalorian. No, go on. Sorry, I completely forgot. I completely lost my.
I was just gonna say I specifically hated in the fight between, I think it's Sol and Chimere. He jumps off and like force levitates down slowly, and Chimere slowly like force levitates towards him. It started to feel a little too like Matrix and not enough, because in like the third movie, we see them descend from platforms like that. They just jump, flip, and land. So that seemed like bad. That seemed like bad choreography to have them like float down. I was like, this isn't good. They would just be flipping down. But otherwise, it was fine.
The thing that made me strongly dislike it was probably just the characters in the I just thought that none of them were interesting. In fact, I didn't like them. Yeah, I didn't like them. But the thing is, I can like a really bad like guy. Like Negan. I love Negan. He's an awful person, but I love him. But even the bad people...
famously, people love Walt, and he's like the worst
guy ever.
He's the worst
guy
in
Sopranos.
The whole show, but you love him. Yeah. Tony.
People love Tony Soprano.
There's a point. Yeah, they play with, can he be good? And then there's a point in the show where they say, no, he can't be. He's awful, and you still love him because you love Tony Soprano. It's art, and you can love the bad people. But in the Acolyte, there is nobody that I like at all. Like I just don't like them at all.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that show's script. We don't have to turn the whole episode into hating the Acolyte. There's plenty of that out there. It's hard not to talk about because it was such a pivotal moment in the franchise, like it or not.
I can't hate it because I was so indifferent to it. It left no emotions.
I just like, as much as it's been brought up, so we're talking about what we dislike about it now. But like, to be honest, like I don't care about it at all. Like I think the hatred it gets, and the fact people bring it up all the time, and never stop talking about it. But like I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not really that bothered about it. You know,
It's
it's
a lot
just
of-
a not very good show.
A lot of hatred I'll say online is a lot of forced hatred because it makes money. And that's what sorry, what I was saying about Mando and Grogu was people saying like, oh, it's like with Grogu and stuff and some of the scenes it's clearly meant to be a kids film, but then there's so much violence. And I'm like, kids love violence. Like what do you mean?
I loved
was
violence
a
as a
former
kid.
I loved my favorite part of Attack of Clones was when they were fighting the massive bugs at the end.
Hell
I didn't
yeah.
care about anything before that because I was 6. All I cared was the fight scene. It's like people
But
being
it's a
like,
kid,
oh,
like,
it can't be a kids film because it opens up and he's setting people on fire and shooting them in the face. I'm like, yeah.
That's
6-year-old me would've been
quintessential
like,
kid
film.
This is awesome. Yeah.
I always think as well, like, kids love horror. Like, they might not love the same horror that an adult loves, but kids love horror.
They
You know,
don't love
some of the
gore,
most
but they love being
Well,
jump scared
some
and
of the
stuff,
most
yeah.
popular like
Goosebumps.
horror games have been popular because they're connected with kids, and sometimes that's the issue. You know, like for example, Five Nights at Freddy's. You know that kids loved that. The issue then I think is that they started making it for those kids, but you know, kids love violence. And they
Like
love
who
horror
do,
and
who do
stuff.
we what age group do we realistically think was playing Resident Evil 2? Like 10-year-olds. Like 10 to like
Yeah,
kids.
10 to 13.
It was not
It's like
18-year-old
everyone
pluses
knows
playing. I
Call
mean,
of
I'm sure they
Duty's
were. But...
audience is 12 years old.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
everyone, I'm not here to be like, oh, I like the massive scary emoji faces and like stupid stuff in Call of Duty, but also that's the audience who plays Call of Duty. I know there are some 30-year-olds being like, I don't like seeing,
Yeah.
you know, these
And then
characters
there's,
in my Call of Duty game, but also you're not the one who's buying that skin. It's your little cousin.
That's true.
But it's
who's gonna
like-
show off
it's
when
like,
he goes to school next tomorrow that he's bought that skin.
The people that play Call of Duty, there's two groups. There's like modern Call of Duty. It's kids or the
30-year-olds.
gamers group of people that play Call of Duty, sports games, and car games, and it's just the same
Yeah.
few games. And I say gamers because they don't really play other games because they don't want to be
No.
like nerdy or anything like that. But you know, they just play those.
They have
same
the
few
few
games.
pastime
games every
franchises.
year.
Yeah.
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 It's Forza, it's FIFA, and it's or NFL, and it's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Yeah, my problem with the "it's made for kids" thing has always been that I think for some reason a lot of adults think children like cannot handle literally
People
anything.
think kids are stupid. People
When they
think
say
kids are,
made the
like,
kid, they think it must be
idiots.
like Shaun the Sheep. Like they want Star
Yeah.
Wars Shaun the Sheep, and I'm like, no, you can have Grogu be a cute character and have violence,
Yeah.
and the kids can get it.
It's like you said,
their
Jula. It's
brains
like
can wrap around.
you
But
said
that
you were a
doesn't- that
kid
doesn't-
once. Like I was a kid once, and I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
being
was a
like
kid.
stupid. Maybe these people
No,
are just
I
dumb.
loved action. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe they
I
they,
got-
they
when
think
I
kids
was-
were
I
dumb because they're
remember what I
stupid.
liked.
When I was a kid, you know, I liked stuff that. For example, I always talk about, you know, how much I love Doctor Who. Growing up with Doctor Who, one of the best parts about being a British kid is like Doctor Who scaring you because it goes further than kid stuff does because really that's what kid stuff is about. And I guess you know, modern Doctor Who is a family show, so it's for everyone. But you know, still a part of growing up as a kid in British culture is like a Doctor Who episode scares the shit out of you at some point when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Like that's something that happens when you're growing up.
What, like
And
Weeping
originally,
Angels?
New Who was
Yeah.
like Weeping Angels. New Who was very edgy originally. It didn't for
Mm.
the way it looked, especially how it was filmed for a kid. It didn't look like it was meant to be for family. It felt like
Yeah.
you were watching something
Well,
that was
that's
meant to be a
why-
little bit older than you.
I thought
That's why it
Eccleston
was
had like an
exciting.
edge.
I think that's why it was
Yeah.
exciting when I was a kid because it felt more grown up than all the like kid stuff. So that when I stopped watching like Brum and moved on to Doctor Who, it was very much
That's a
this
hell of a
like.
job.
Well, to be fair, I was watching Doctor Who from like the moment it was on from the moment
Yeah.
I was born, and you know it was there. But
Jeez. You guys are
yeah, there's been
Whovians, huh?
yeah. Well, no, for
Well,
me it was
yeah, but I was also like 13 when it came back.
I watched
Yeah, no, I
all
was-
of New Who when I was 15, 16, or 17, somewhere in there. Started with Eccleston and
Yeah.
I watched up until Smith, and that was like it.
Yeah,
And
that
I,
would have been when Smith
jumped
came
off.
out when you were that age. Because that was. The same
I
age.
saw the first Smith season, and then I stopped, and I haven't
Yeah.
watched it since. And then I watched the
Well, I've
movie they
seen
did, the
that.
special.
Yeah. Oh, that's
With-
the
with the-
50th.
with the War
that's
Doctor.
Good, yeah.
John Hurt.
That is good. I thought they've put some of the recent finales in cinemas, and I'll say it all the time. I don't know if I told you guys when the last finale, which is like the worst episode of the entire show, went in cinemas. I watched it in the cinemas, and I always say it all the time. When the Doctor regenerated into Rose Tyler, I went.
Yeah,
Like, I did
Physically
that.
face
and that's
palm.
what
Yeah.
everyone at the BBC did, and then they cancelled it.
And
they
then
don't
they
realize what the fuck
they
are they
cancelled the
doing.
Christmas special.
That's
Yeah.
actually so
Yeah.
funny. I haven't had anything to do with Who since Smith's first season. I jumped out. I haven't seen Capaldi or anything. But when I saw that's
That was
what they
that was the
did.
transition towards it. To me, it felt less like it had that edge. It was more like we're appealing a little bit
I
to a
would
younger
say-
demographic. I think with the
what I
Doctor
would
after that, they
say-
did go the other way.
Yeah, but with Capaldi, it has more edge than it ever had before. In that he, it's so edgy. I remember in his second episode when his companion Clara gets in the TARDIS and says, "Where are we going?" He pulls the lever and he says, "Into darkness." And that's the
Such a
kind that's
silly
the kind
show.
of guy he starts off as. Like he has to, but he has this whole crisis of, "Am I a good man?" In that first season that I think is really good.
Wasn't
But
wasn't
yeah.
wasn't violent enough for me to stick around. I needed more. I needed more violence. I had to switch to Daredevil.
Nice.
Good thing to switch to though.
Do we have anything else to say about
Wrap around
Shadow Academy?
Yeah.
Did you guys have any other thoughts about
Other
it?
than like this is the Luke that obviously we all wanted in the sequels.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like
for
Luke
sure.
is the goat, like complete aura farming. And it still feels like even though he is much older and he's gone through arcs that I've not seen. Like I've only heard secondhand through Gabe and through like Wikipedia. But like I can feel that he's changed, but he still has that like that glint of the youthful Luke in it. Like I mentioned that earlier, they had that line where he Tenel Carr can see a sense of bit of excitement in him that he's gonna go on this adventure to go find the kids. Like you still see that is like teenage Luke is still in there, like underneath all this like all the training and everything he's gone through.
Yeah, I like that. I also like that he is still. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but in the second last chapter, whenever like he's like staring down Brackus and like he gets his lightsaber out and the kids are yelling like, "We gotta go, we gotta go!" It still felt like that episode 4 scene where Luke sees Ben and Vader fighting and like they're calling for him to go. I don't know if that was an
totally got
intentional callback, but I was like, "Hey, this is
I think
this
it
is still
definitely
Luke."
was.
Luke is, but he's older, but he still stands and waits. He's still thinking, "Am I about to go confront this person or not?"
Yeah. He steps out of the shuttle because he's like because he feels the sense of Brackus and he was like, I've got to go check this out. Like he
Says,
has that
what
intrigue.
he says. He literally says or thinks like, "I have to see," or something like that. Like
Yeah.
he thinks he has to see him.
There is no sense of like I have to get away from here. It's gonna blow up or anything with Luke because like we said, Luke is just so OP at this point. I think he's so cocksure in his own abilities. He just doesn't worry about anything at this point.
Yeah,
I think he thinks he's the one who could fly through space with his hand out like that, like Leia does in the sequel. That's what Luke thinks right now. He's like, I could do it. Like I'll be fine.
He is the one who knocks, basically.
Yeah. You're right about that. I loved Luke's sections. That was easily my favorite part of this book is Luke and Tenel Ka. I think Tenel Ka is also a great character. She kind of gets sidelined after the Young Jedi Knights, I'm pretty sure. I've only read some New Jedi Order, but my understanding is that she's not a very prevalent character.
She isn't for a bit, and then she becomes a main character later on. And she's like a main
interesting
character.
her perspective of only using the Force if she needs to.
That's
like she will always be like physical first.
I'm pretty sure that's building up to an arc where she has to stop thinking like that. Like that's what's I don't.
It actually worked for her in this. Like this,
it did work
because Tamara would probably have been able to sense that she was going to kick her in the knee if she was using the Force for that, but she cut herself off from the Force.
What I would say is that that is Luke's perspective right now, where we're at. He thinks like he doesn't want to use the Force unless he needs to. That is his ideology by now. Which again, in New Jedi Order that becomes a fault in that he doesn't use it enough and that he doesn't do enough.
One thing I do feel like we didn't, because Jason kind of got an arc because he wanted the lightsaber and then he chose to not keep it when Luke offered. I felt like that was a little out of nowhere because nowhere in this book or in the first one did we see Jason expressing like a big desire to have a lightsaber. At least not that I remember. I think it's kind of implied that everyone would want a lightsaber.
In the first
chapter, he asks Luke, can you have it now? Like he's ready. Like he has like a brief conversation with Luke about it.
Okay, yeah, I do seem to remember that, but I didn't feel like he had this burning desire. Like I feel like it would have been earned more if he had talked more earlier about if I had a lightsaber, I could get us out of this. If only you know what I'm saying? I feel like we could have probably used a little bit more.
Or
of
even
that.
if had it in the previous book as well, being like a great want that he has. Is that he can't use a lightsaber.
I don't even know how important it was, because at the end, when Luke is like, you know what, I will train you. You're gonna show me what you've learned. He's just like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, he
was
So I was like, yeah, no, thank you.
But
No,
the
you were
book
right.
ends.
I don't want it anymore.
The book
Yeah.
ends on that note as if that's like a lesson learned, like that was his arc.
Yeah.
But it's not. I didn't ever get the impression, except when he was handed the lightsaber and he was like, "This is what I wanted." And I was like, "It is." I didn't
Yeah.
get the sense
Like,
that you were like
even
craving
then-
it.
I don't know if it ended that way with me, because like, I even felt like Luke wanted to say like, "Oh no, you're pretty good. You know, you ready?"
Yeah.
It's more like he said, "No, I'm not
Maybe-
ready. You're right."
We need to transplant ourselves into the brain of a 10-year-old, because a 10-year-old, they all want a lightsaber. So
That's
maybe
what I was
they
thinking,
already
yeah.
intrinsically think, well, of course Jason wants a lightsaber because I want a lightsaber. So they don't have to think about it from the perspective of the character. They just think everyone, every kid must be thinking they want a lightsaber.
Yeah, it's a little it is a little presumptuous of the reader. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
presumptuous, yeah.
That's what I felt. It's like, of course Jason wants a lightsaber. It's like, I don't know that though.
Yeah.
Like Jana
Yeah.
doesn't seem to like be craving it, and that
No,
her
she
arc
doesn't seem to
isn't.
care.
Yeah, so why I'm just supposed to assume that he wants it? Like obviously he does. I would. You're right, but
I was also surprised to see Qual
Coral,
come
yeah,
back so
the
soon.
goat is
Yeah.
back.
I thought he was gonna be one of those things where he comes back like 4 books down the line. Like I didn't realize it was gonna be instantly like, oh, he's back already. And he's already having his
his
arc.
arc.
Like he's already kind of going towards like rebelling against the Empire and stuff.
I
I
completely
think it's-
forgot
they gave
he
him
was
a
in this
droid
book.
arm, which that is so messed
Yeah.
up that they gave him a droid arm. Like they have prosthetics.
Yeah,
He
I
knows
think
they
Even
have
Jason points that
prosthetics.
out. Jason's like, dude,
Yeah, Jason's
Yeah, I don't
like, my
understand.
uncle's got a prosthetic hand, bro. What are they giving
I
you?
thought they might explain why they didn't give him like fix his hand, but
They're
not
just
really.
cheap.
They're just like,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
because
maybe, yeah.
either it's cheap because this empire isn't very strong, or it's maybe a punishment. Because it feels like they would be the kind of empire to punish him, and be like, "Oh, why didn't you escape from Yavin sooner? Why did it take you so long?" That kind
Yeah,
of thing,
and he didn't lose his arm either. It was just broken. They chopped it
Yeah,
off.
They chopped it off. Yeah.
They amputated and stuffed a droid on it. That's terrible. I completely forgot he was in this book. Actually, I like whenever I was reading the scene where he like opens the shield and lets them out. I remembered reading that like 2 decades ago. I was like, oh, that's right. But before then, I was like, Coral's in this book. I didn't know he came back this soon.
Yeah. I guess with his his arc so far, he is like the OG Finn, and I just hope like we see him more of him, and that he continues to have like more depth, and it isn't instantly forgotten that he was part of the Empire if he does like at some point join him. I'm being presumptuous at this point. I don't know what happens like while he might like
I don't
literally
even
never
remember.
come back.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
if
I
he-
feel like he's gonna rebel and join the New Republic based on what we've seen, and if that does happen, I hope they do remember that he was an Empire thing, and that's brought up a bit more.
Yeah, I think there's potential with that character, and I think Kevin Anderson seems to like him, so I imagine he'll probably.
Yeah, because I was surprised he came back so fast. I thought he would be like brought up a few books down the line, just be like, "Oh, you remember this guy from the first book?"
Yeah, I know. I vaguely know what happens in the next book, and we're still 2 books away from lightsabers is book 4. That's when they actually make their
Yeah.
lightsabers, and that's a really good one. But we got one
that is
more.
one of the most popular. Yeah.
Yeah, we got
I will
one
say
more
the
before
stakes
then.
have grown super fast because it
Oh.
went
Yes.
from Imperial Pilot was the antagonist of the last one,
I was,
and now it's like
Yeah, we're all over
two
the
Dark
place in this
Jedi.
book. We're all
Yeah.
over planets and stuff. The stakes go crazy,
was,
by the way.
I was right. Do you guys want to know? I do recall Quarrel being somewhere. Do you want to know if he's in something?
Other than
yeah, go on.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, he's in
Other
the
than
New
YJK.
Jedi Order at some point.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he does have an extended arc. That's good to see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not much, but he is in
No.
it at some point.
But he does return. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you guys wanting to see from book 3? I have a vague idea of what happens of it. I'm pretty sure this was Zeke I think it's Zeke is going to get introduced in the next book. I know Brackus is coming back, and I think that like they do a thing with Jana and Brackus. I know she ends up with Zeke, but I think they do a thing. I think that's why this book keeps describing him as beautiful. Did you guys notice that? They kept describing Brackus as like
Yeah.
gorgeous and
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm like, this
Yeah,
is
I
for
think they
Jana's
kind of-
sake, right?
I think Jaina
is
is
this around
she.
the time as well that no, because this is before the dark side corrupts you, right? Was that established yet? It must have been somewhat established
It-
because
I think that was
It's-
suggested in
yeah,
the
it's up
OT.
in
That's the idea here. It's more that
yeah, the idea is that this because when he does use the dark side at one point, like they say his face like changes instantly. Like it becomes more
Yeah.
like
They say
disfigured, like, straight away.
his eyes change color too. They say his eyes
Yeah,
change
yeah.
color.
I think the idea even then was that that's what had happened to Palpatine, and I think maybe people even thought that's what had happened to Vader.
I just
You know,
accept that that's the way that it is. I don't care what anyone else says. I think it's so obvious that the dark side physically corrupts
Yeah, I don't
you.
think it's light in scarring. I'm pretty I've
Like-
always preferred that it was a visage.
Even Lucas himself,
After
like
that happened, he was like, I don't need it.
I think you brought this up a few episodes ago, Jular, where the reason he looks like more decrepit in Attack of the Clones is because that Lucas's idea was for him to get more like
Yeah,
like
he was
deathly.
he was meant to change over the 3 films,
And then he just
he
went
changed
back
his
on
mind
it.
in the 3rd film and made him younger again.
That's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
funny.
Like he has blonde hair in Phantom Menace, and then it's instantly grey by Attack of the Clones, and then it's almost like an in between again by Episode 3. Like they went back on it.
But what are you guys hoping to see from Book 3, The Lost Ones?
I want a bit more of action with like Shadow Academy people. Like I want to see something actually happen. At least a development. I want to see something actually happen. Like more of a. I want them to be more of a threat rather than just, in the works. I would like to see a bit more training again. I want to see Jason,
Yeah.
Jaina, Tenel, Car, and Loey develop.
That's what
like I want them back
conflicted
in
on.
Yavin 4.
I want more school stuff, but I feel like the
Yeah.
story's already ramped up so much that you can't fit it in realistically. Like we had more
Yeah.
school stuff in this book than we had in the first one, and they were actually in a Jedi Academy in the first one. Now they're in the Dark Jedi Academy. So we barely saw anything in the first book other than they had
I wanna see them
substitute
learn.
teacher, didn't they?
Yeah.
I want to see him learn a bit more and do some more like
Exactly,
Jedi
yeah.
stuff and training.
But I feel like because they now know that the Jedi Academy on Yavin, the Shadow Academy know that's where the kids are, and they're gonna come take them. That was the plan before Luke came and thwarted it. And the Shadow Academy's still up and running. They've just moved it. So yeah, that's clearly like an impending doom that is gonna come.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, Book 3 like wraps up a lot of the stakes of this. Like this is like a
Okay, good.
3-book arc, and most of the ramp. That's why I said this feels like an in between 1 and 2, because this book is just establishing a bunch of stakes that Book 3 is going to wrap up. Book 4 is almost starting a new arc, so it's not just perpetually growing. So because I remember we go back to a lot of like the training and learning, like. The stakes of Book 4 are significantly lower than 2 and 3, in my opinion.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Then.
So it's going to slow back down after Book 3.
yeah,
I do know that for sure.
Yeah.
nice.
I don't know what happens after Book 6, because that's where I stopped. I've never read anything
From
past
what
that.
I
Are there
know,
again?
There's 9.
there's quite a few. Yeah.
9. Okay.
Well, there's more than that. I think there's like another.
Really? I thought there were
another
9.
arc, yeah. There's 2 arcs after 6.
I stopped at 6, so everything after that's going to be brand new for me.
Yeah, what I was going to
Nice.
say before I find how many there are is that the first 6 were written all together, and that was supposed to be it. So 6 is the ending,
It's
and then they
14.
sold so well they did more. Yeah.
14?
14 apparently.
Yeah.
14.
I don't even own 14. I think I only own 9 of them. I know I read one of them out of order. I think I read the 8th one. Whichever one Boba Fett is in. That one's not good at all. That's like the worst one
They were
that I read.
published over just in 3 years. That's a hell of a pace to pump them out.
Bro, he was
But yeah,
cranking
because I
them
think
out.
all
Yeah.
6 were written straight away, like as one thing.
Oh, that
and
makes
then-
sense. And then they were divided.
Yeah.
That
the-
makes more sense on why this feels the way it does. It does feel like an unfinished.
I imagine we're going to find about at the end of book 6 that 6 feels like the end, and then everything that comes afterwards is like extra. From what I know, people still like the other stuff, but nothing is as good as like the original 6, which was like a self-contained story, which is like the original 6 is they call it the Shadow Academy arc, and it's you can get a hardcover that collects the whole lot. So it's that's more
Yeah.
like one more planned
I want
story.
that hardcover. I don't have that. I want that.
Yeah, I wanted to get it, and then I actually bought it, and it never came, and I got a refund.
Bro, that sucks. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look that up. Is it good artwork?
It's like I think it's just like a mixture of other artwork. Like I don't think it is something particularly new. The Rise of the Shadow Academy, it's called. Yeah, I think I got a picture of it.
Is the next book called The Lost Ones?
Yes, that's book
Yes,
3.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, because that was released as a compilation called like the Young Jedi Knights Jedi Shadow. That's what the arc was, I guess, called. Include all 3 of them.
Okay. See that now I'm learning things because I don't think I've ever read
Okay, so they must have released. Yeah,
Darkest
they've released
Night.
this volume twice then, and they've renamed it because Rise of the Shadow Academy makes more sense for those $3. But they also released this one called Jedi Shadow, which is the same thing. That's quite odd.
But I'm excited for I'm actually excited for 4, 5, and 6. I think the most. I just think 4 lightsabers. I'm really excited for, and that last of the original 6 Jedi Under Siege. I think it just has like the sickest cover in the world.
Jedi Under Siege is such a great cover. But no,
Yeah.
don't worry. The Lost Ones is really good. Like it's a super solid book. We're all going to be very pleased with that. I'm trying to find this hardcover y'all are talking about. I can't. Oh, here it is. Rise of the Shadow Academy. Oh, this is disappointing artwork. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of those hardcover collections were just like repackaging.
Just compile the 3 covers we
Artwork.
have together. Yeah. Apparently, the whole series takes it's over 2 years, like age 14 to 16.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
God, so
they're
much happens to
14
these
at
kids.
this point,
No wonder Luke wasn't worried about them. It's like these kids are getting something new happen to them every week.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. This hardcover is expensive AF, dude. This is like almost
They are all the
$100.
time, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the older books are like that.
Well, the hardcover is a science fiction book club exclusive, and there was no, what they would often do is they would package paperback only releases into hardcover collections. So they were quite exclusive, which is why there's not so
Okay.
many.
And there's 2 hardcovers. So the second one, Under Black Sun, is I guess that's the 6 after that.
The rest of them, I think so, yeah.
You said there's 14 of these?
Yeah, and then I think
So yeah,
I don't know how many are in the other collections.
Yeah, there's 14 of these books. Dang.
Mhm.
I do not own all of these. I'm missing. I don't own Darkest Night, and I don't think I. No, I do own Delusions of Grandeur.
yeah, that's the 9th one.
Yeah, I don't think I own I don't own the Trouble at Cloud City. I definitely don't own
There's
that one.
there's 3 of the hardcover collections.
Now, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot more returning characters. Don't want to spoil myself too much, but IG-88 comes back in one of them.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
I've read
returning characters.
Shards of Alderaan. I'm preparing you guys to know that nothing happens in that book, so it's going to be a little bit of a slow read. It's not. It's my least favorite that I've read. I read it out of order.
Yeah, that's the first one after that original arc.
I remember
It's not
having
the original
to.
6,
I remember
so,
having to kind of force myself through it.
Yeah, I think maybe that's probably why you didn't read after that like original arc, right? Because that's the first one, and you probably weren't that interested after that.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've ever read Jedi Under Siege. I think I own it, but I don't. I think that Shards of Alderaan, for some reason as a kid, I thought that came before Jedi Under Siege. So I read.
Yeah, I think what we should do,
There was
right, is
definitely some cost cutting on these covers at one point, because Jedi Under Siege, the picture of the Emperor they're using is the same one from Dark Empire. And I'm thinking that's probably also not from Dark
it's,
Empire. It was probably used for something else as well.
honestly, this is like a drawn cover, so they just used the same reference images over and
Yeah.
over.
Well, it could be that. It's the same reference image of the thing.
Yeah,
of the
they
Emperor.
they literally reused Luke's face on Jedi Under Siege and Crisis at Crystal Reef. It's the same Luke.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the only faces that change are Jason and Jaina.
Hmm.
And that's because they didn't have a reference, I guess.
Yeah. Honestly, like
Yeah.
my one of my issues with the American covers is that they just have like people's faces for Jason and Jaina, and like they're just not at all how I imagine the characters for like the new Jedi Order.
You gotta do artwork, man. That's the way it's gotta be.
Yeah.
I do want these hardcovers though. They're really cool. Wow, this Reddit account, this guy at Reddit says he found all 3 of them at a bookstore for $5 each. That's insane.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
I can get all 14 paperback for only £230. Which is,
Well, that's why.
steal.
That's why I was going for the hardcovers initially, because getting those expensive exclusive hardcovers is cheaper than getting the paperbacks now, because the paperbacks
Wow.
are to get all of them is so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to do something because I have 2 copies of Heir to the Force now. I want to like do a giveaway for the first one, even though it's only worth like $6. I want to be like, do this and I'll mail this to you.
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet though. Well, guys, I guess that's it for the episode. That wraps it up. I've enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yep.
What is our final consensus on Shadow Academy? I would definitely say it's a great read. It's not something you can read independent of the other ones. Like clearly, you need to have read the first
No,
one, and
you can't jump into it.
but I had
That's
a lot of
actually
fun with it.
interesting you pointed that because normally a lot of like sequels, you have the thing where they have to reintroduce the character, right? They'd be like, oh, here's Jason, he has 2-souled brown hair and that kind of stuff, and you'd be like, yeah, I know this stuff, but they don't really do that at all. It does
I
just
appreciate
jump you
that.
straight in, assume. I do
I think
appreciate
it's-
that, but
I think it's like I
interesting
said
that they
because
didn't consider that.
these 6 were written as like one story. I think that they just hoped, you know, if they release them all quickly, that people will just read one after the other, rather, and didn't bother trying to like reintroduce everything. Which, as Evan said, I agree that's good.
Yeah, it definitely feels like you could put 1 and 2 together and read straight through. It was just like a long novel.
Yeah, quite easily because they're not that long.
Yeah, I loved it. I had a
would
great
say
time.
Good. I actually not as good as the first one.
Really?
I don't think so.
Why do you say that?
Yeah.
Me too.
I don't know why. The first one was more entertaining, I think.
I think
Yeah.
for the first one, I enjoyed every story going on, and with this one, I enjoyed one, but far more enjoyed.
Yeah, I think
the
you're
other.
right. It's because Luke and Tenel Car was so much more interesting. When we had to go back to Jason and Jaina, I was like, okay, let's like get through this quickly so I can get back to Luke. Whereas
Yeah.
there weren't
And
really simultaneous arcs in the first book, other than when they after Qual got the blaster and they had to all run away. That was the only time they were separated.
I can see that, but I felt like the first book kind of stretched things because like we read how Lobaka got back to the academy, and then we had to read about Tenno Ka getting back to the academy,
And then
then
MTD
MTD had his own
Yeah.
pay. Like I felt like it was dragging on a little bit, and I feel like this book had such a
Yeah.
faster pace that I was never like, okay, you know, what are we doing?
I think to me it was almost too fast. I mentioned that earlier. That was my only complaint, was that it felt like it needed another 2 chapters at the end. The whole escape sequence was just a bit too.
It was a
like,
bit
oh no,
rushed.
Luke and Tenel Car are here now. I guess we got to wrap this up real quick.
Yeah, I can see that. Personally, I liked this one more, but it's just because of Luke. Like
It's
Luke's
extremely close. Like
Luke's
not much
portrayal.
between it.
I think Luke's portrayal and reading about Luke doing things pushes it over the edge for me. I prefer this one to the first one a little bit. Also, I like that. I love when Star Wars takes us to like different worlds, and Heirs to the Force was all on Yavin, whereas this one we're on Borgo Prime. We're at the Shadow Academy. We go to Dathomir. We were at Yavin Prime, the gas
we're on
giant.
Lando's mine.
Yeah. There's a lot of locations. There's a lot of stuff happening. I just enjoyed that more. I liked all the interesting things going on. So I can respect liking Heirs of the Force more. It's tighter. It's a tighter knit story.
Yeah, that's what
It's
it
more
felt like.
cohesive.
Yeah, I
feels
think
like
there was something special for that one that it had for sort of introducing Jason and Jaina properly, and Loie and Tenel Ka and them learning. My favorite stuff of the series so far was them being taught at Yavin 4. That was my favorite stuff so far. That was
probably my
what I
favorite.
enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
And that didn't really happen here.
You're
No,
right.
I did like the classroom scene with Brachus, and how the kids are kind of disagreeing with his lecture and how they think it's wrong and stuff like that, and then it leads to them all like trying to break free during that sequence. That was
I just think
one
it
of my
was,
other than the Luke stuff. I think that was one of my favorite bits with Jason and Jaina.
Yeah.
I think,
I just think
the reason I
the-
don't like it quite as much is because Jason and Jaina just weren't their parts weren't as interesting to me. And if I'm gonna be reading YJK, it's for the YJK. As much as I love Luke,
I think,
like Luke was the best part of a book where he shouldn't have been the best part. You know, he's almost taken over this book a little bit.
Yeah, and for me with the Shadow Academy, I feel like they bit off more than they could chew, in that you could have wrote like a full-size novel about that.
Yeah.
And there was so much more I wanted to see. You know, I wanted to see
But
like
I think we come back, right?
I think we will.
Yeah.
Or something.
Not
more
not
will happen
not
with
like
it.
this though. Not like we're not gonna explore it like
Yeah.
this.
It could have done
Okay.
with like, I would have liked a bit more about the students, and I would have liked at least a student that feels disillusioned with the teachings and can, you know, leave with Jason and Jaina, and maybe more teachers, you know, maybe just to see more of the Shadow Academy. I hope we didn't get a good idea of it.
The
We
only
saw
character they introduced of note is Brachus. There was also Tenokar's grandmother, but I think that's more for the people who've read Courtship than it was for like the kids or like the new readers. And then like we've said, Tamith Kai just so uninteresting. She has like a few paragraphs, and I'm just
I like that about her, actually.
She's just angry.
I like how
Like,
bland she is.
She is just like New Hope Vader. She's an enforcer. Like Brachus is like the Emperor, I guess. He's the brains behind the operation.
If it wasn't for
I
Brachus,
think,
it would have been disappointing.
I think Brachus is not as important as you may think. Like, I'm getting the impression that there's something.
No, I don't
behind
think he is.
all
I
this,
just within this book, he's set up as like he's the brains of the operation, and Tamith Kai is just like the muscle.
No, Brachus is like the reoccurring villain for like the next several books. He's important.
But they've sort of hinted at someone greater.
Yeah,
I think
but
there's something more.
Yeah, the new leader.
That
maybe.
I'm interested in who that is and what.
Yeah,
what the second Imperium
one would
really
based
is.
on the cover of Jedi Under Siege. It is the Emperor in some fashion.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Yes, that's what the cover seems to imply.
I don't think it's actually the Emperor, by the way. I think that I haven't read Jedi
They might
Under
have
Siege,
decided,
but
hey, we're going Dark Empire. We're pulling it in. We'll link it up.
Clone Emperor is back.
Find out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up our thoughts. I now that you've said it, I do have to agree, because this is the book about the Shadow Academy, and we're not really going to see it explored again, not in the capacity that this book tried to do. And after you saying that, thinking about it, like they probably should have done more with Jason and Jaina being at the Shadow Academy.
I still think it was the more exciting book, but as a narrative, I felt the first one was tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I
this
think
is the
what
more
they could
exciting
have
one. 'Cause,
done,
like as you said, so much happens. It's so fast paced. It is more of a gripping read. But from a
what they
narrative
could have
standpoint,
done
I think the first one was stronger.
to do more of the academy would be to take Loie and Tenelkar with them and just have them break out rather than them being saved. And then because then you could have spent more time at the academy and all four of them, how they deal with it and how they're trained and stuff, and then they could have broken out, as they pretty much ended up doing anyway. So there was no need to have a whole plot line of them, coming to be
Loie
rescued.
has some good scenes, but he, other than like at the end when he helps hack into the computers, he doesn't need to be there. Like he doesn't do much.
I'll tell you, the problem, I think, was the scene where they used their lightsabers to like fend off objects and stuff. I think that scene felt a little dull, and it should have been replaced by like more teaching and exploration of the academy and like philosophical battle. I just wasn't very gripped by them blindfolded.
No.
I thought
that lead anywhere. I thought it was going to lead to them hating Loie because Loie didn't do a good enough job on the computer to stop the rocks hitting them. I thought that's what they were alluding to try and like break up the kids and make them hate each other. But it just didn't. It didn't go anywhere.
It was a little bit of a pointless scene that just was there to have them use their lightsaber. No, they didn't use they had sticks. They didn't have lightsabers.
No, the only interesting bit of that was what we got a visualization of the Force from like Jason's perspective, and he said it's like a blur of light that occurs a second before reality. So that was the only like standout point I think of that entire section.
I think if that scene had been replaced with like more Shadow Academy stuff, it would have improved the book a great deal. Because that scene in general was just kind of, I was reading, I was like, not really interested in this.
And I wish as well there was more to the teachings than just, well, the Jedi, you only use the light, and well, we use the dark as well, then we're better.
It was a little,
and then it was the confusing thing of like, we're training you to be Jedi, but also these old Jedi, they were side.
Yeah,
we're good Jedi because we use dark side.
It's a little shallow academy, you could say. The problem is that they had that scene where Jason and Jaina fight each other as Vader, and that was such an interesting idea that like alludes to their history and alludes to them fighting and what that looks like. Yeah, accidental foreshadowing, and then following that up with we're gonna throw rocks and knives at you. It's just like you can't follow that up.
It felt like they remembered, oh no, Loie's here. We need to use him. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's our thoughts on Shadow Academy.
That was everything.
Yeah. Next episode, whenever we get together, will be a topic. We'll reveal it when we do it, and then the next novel at some point when we do a video. We're going through Plagueis right now, so if you want to hear us rant and talk about Plagueis for 2 hours, that'll be coming up at some point. But thanks,
And
everybody.
comic at some point too.
Yeah, and we're doing a comic. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and hanging out with us today on this episode of Starcasters. We'll see you the next time we're on. And do you guys have anything else to say?
No,
Thanks
that's
for
it.
joining.
Thanks for watching.
All right, guys, we will see you next time.